What is up, people? Van from the VaniverseGaming channel here, bringing another video on Solasta Crown the Magister. Today's video, we are going to cover my first build video, and we're going to do it on the melee Warlock build. So, I've said it in my Warlock video before that the Warlock is main bread and butter is Eldritch blasting everything, knocking them back, just doing significant damage with their cantrips, and that's pretty much what makes them special. But they also have the ability to be a pretty decent melee DPS, and it gives you a little bit of variety from some of the other DPS classes. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to build a melee Warlock, give you my tips and guides on building one, and then just kind of show you how to level him up from 1 to 12. And then once we're done, I'll show you a little gameplay of a melee Warlock right around the level 5 mark so you can see how they function once they really get their bread and butter as a melee Warlock. So with all that being said and without further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing you have to choose is which ancestry race you want to pick. To me, my favorite ones are going to be the half-orc, because the half-orc gets your strength and constitution, which is super important for a melee version of a warlock. You get relentless endurance, which means if you were going to get knocked unconscious, you don't. You go down to 1 hit point. And you get savage attacks, which means every time you crit, you get to roll an extra damage dice. When we're using a melee two-hander, this is going to be huge in our damage output, which is why this is probably my favorite ancestry to choose. Probably second is going to be the Snow Dwarf. This gives you Constitution and Dexterity, but what really makes them awesome is you get a +2 on your Constitution saving throw. So if you can get a Constitution of an 18, this is going to give you a +6 every time you try and have a concentration. So every time you get hit, you have to roll a concentration, and you got to roll better than a 10. So if you're getting a +6 on that roll, you have to roll a 3 or lower to have your concentration knocked off, and you're always going to be concentrating on something, and that's why I think this is a very strong ancestry. Number 3 would probably be the Dragonborn. Getting the 1 charisma and 2 in strength is nice. Having that extra resistance to a specific damage type is really nice. And then getting a free breath weapon, you're going to be melee. This is also really fun to do. And then finally, just an honorary mention is probably the Hill Dwarf. You get the 2 Constitution, the 1 Wisdom's kind of pointless, but they get this Dwarven Toughness that lets them get 1 additional hit point per level, which can add up, especially for someone who's going to be taking some damage up in the front. But for this video, we're going to go with the Half-Orc. And we're going to pick our Warlock. Alright, so now you got to pick your patron. To me, it's down to one of 2 patrons, the Fiend or the Tree. Now the Tree, they get some interesting spells with Spike Growth, Entangle, Fog Cloud, Conjure Animal, etc. But they also get this at first level where anytime they take damage, they do 1d4 piercing damage back. With the Hellish Rebuke spell, you're basically doing a lot of damage to something that hits you, and you can kill stuff just for them attacking you without you having to waste anything. This is going to do really well in the early games, but it's probably going to fall off later game. And then on top of that, at level 6, getting immunity, you can't be poisoned, and you gain resistance against poison and necrotic damage. So this is really going to be strong for that extra resistance. If you were to go Draconic in your Dragonborn, then you could have resistance to a lot of different damage types, what could be really strong as well. And then this level 10 ability is just stupid strong, which I like, but by the time you're level 10, it's not a big deal. Now, if we talk about the Fiend, you get a lot of cool fire spells like Burning Hands, Scorching Ray, Fireball, Wall of Fire. Those are all really nice spells to have, even if you're melee, to soften up with some really high damage spells. But then also at level 1, you get this ability to gain temporary hit points every time you kill something. So if you kill a creature, you're gaining your charisma modifier plus your level and temp hit points. So let's just say your charisma is a +3 and you're level 7. Then you're getting 10 temporary hit points every time you kill something, and you're going to be killing a lot of stuff. So this is really going to help with your damage absorption and really help you stay alive in combat more. So also at higher levels, you get this where you can get a 1d10 on all of your saving throws for a minute. This is going to be really strong against casters, so you take less damage. And then you also get a Fiendish Resilience at level 10, where you can pick 1 damage type of any kind and be resistant to it. Really nice, but it comes in pretty late in the game, so it's not going to have that much of a benefit. So ultimately, I'm going to go with the Fiend. I think I like the Fiend better. If I was going a Draconic or a Dragonborn, maybe I'd go Tree, just the whole defense thing. So if you want to go more tanky, I'd pick Tree. If you want to go more DPS, I'd pick Fiend. So now we get into our backgrounds. So with your backgrounds, you have several choices here. I usually pick Sellsword because then I don't have to have a high dexterity. I already need a high strength for my damage. I already need a high constitution for my hit points and my concentration. And I already need a high charisma for some of my pluses to my, my temporary hit points and my agonizing blast and stuff. So that is why trying to get your dex really high so you can wear non-medium or heavy armor is another challenge. So I recommend Sellsword so you can just start wearing medium armor at level 1. But you also get the ability to get a free mage armor, which could help you out, but you still need a high dexterity. So Sellsword is the best way to just get a normal dexterity and be okay. Alright, so now we got that. Now let's get into our dice rolls. If you're going to play standard array or you're going to do point buy, you're going to have a hard time with a melee warlock build because you need to be good at strength and con, you need to be decent at dexterity, and you need to be good at charisma. Decent at charisma. So that's a lot of ability scores, and with all the ASIs and the availability of feats, you're probably going to not like the build. This is a video game. You're supposed to have fun, and you're supposed to make strong characters, and that's what I'm going to do. So I highly recommend you roll an 18, 17, 16, 14. Those are the abilities you want. Now I'm not going to sit here and roll for 20 minutes for this video. I'm going to try and fill it in here, but that's what you're looking for is an 18, 17, 16, 14. Now this is a 17, 17, 14, 13. This could work too. This one can work too. So let's just take this one, right? So the reason why you want that is we want a really high constitution. We want a really high strength, and we want a really decent dexterity. So I'm going to put charisma there and dexterity here. Your ultimate goal is to have a 14 dexterity, a very high strength and con, and a very high charisma. Roll as many times as you want to get that. I would usually recommend 18, 17, 16, 14 with this, and I would put my 16 in strength, my 17 in con, my 18 in charisma, and my 14 in dex. That way I would have an 18 strength, 18 con, 18 charisma, and a 14 dex. That would be the ultimate thing to do, but we're not going to do that right now for sake of the video. So that's what you're trying to do. If you're going half orc, 18, 17, 16, 14, and then the rest can be whatever it is. All right, so now we're just going to pick up some of these fun things here, whatever you want. And now we're going to get into the actual spells. Now, you're going to want Eldritch Blast because you're a Warlock A, and B because you don't get to do melee stuff until a little bit later, so you want Eldritch Blast. You're probably going to want Dazzle as well, or maybe Poison Spray. The rest don't matter. Sparkle, whatever you want. And then you're always going to pick Hellish Rebuke and Malediction. These are two like just must-have. Malediction is basically like Hex in 5th edition, where you bonus action cast a spell on them, and every attack you make does an additional 1d6 damage. And Hellish Rebuke is every time someone attacks you, you actually can rebuke them and do damage back to them. Both of these, to me, are a must-have. All right, so we're just going to pick a name just to get through here, and then we'll show you what we're going to do as we level up from there. All right, so we're going to level 2. Level 2 is where we get our invocations. Now, invocations, keep in mind that you have to read them very well and make sure it does not say it uses a spell slot. You can, since we're only level 2, use Agonizing Blast and get some damage out of your Eldritch Blast until you hit level 3 and can go melee. I would recommend this. But then look at some of these. If it says you can cast Mage Armor at will without expending a spell slot, and you have a decent dexterity, then do this, right? This is a good one to have. Same with like Beguiling Influence, gain proficiency in Deception and Persuasion, great. Devil's Sight, the see-through invisibility, magical darkness, this is always helpful. Fiendish Vigor, get false life on yourself at will without expending a spell slot. I'm going to pick this up because I think extra hit points is great, and it does not it does not get rid of a spell slot. So those are the two I'm going to pick. Now, every level I can choose to get rid of one, so as we get more melee focused, I'll probably get rid of Agonizing Blast, but right now, I need the extra damage. All right, so now we can choose to unlearn a spell every level and learn additional spells. I'm not going to unlearn anything, and because I'm going Fiend, might as well pick some Burning Hands. Maybe doing some AoE damage early on is worth it, and we'll move on. So then we're going to get to level 3. So this is where we turn into our melee Warlock. So we're going to pick Pact of the Blade. What Pact of the Blade is going to do is going to allow us to be proficient with all martial weapons, and all of our martial weapons are now going to be considered magical. So this is where you upgrade to a two-hander. You're going to take a two-handed sword, you're going to take a great axe, you're going to use a hard-hitting two-hander. Now, you could go long sword and shield if you want to be more tanky, but I would not recommend that, because I don't even think you can wear a shield, now that I say that. Don't do that, go two-hander, because that's what I'm going to do, and it's awesome. So now we can say, okay, I'm more melee. Do I care about agonizing blast, or do I want to get a little bit more protection, right? At this point, Armor of Shadows, if it's better for you, if you have mage armor plus your dex is better than what medium armor you're wearing, then maybe it's time to switch out to this Armor of Shadows. If not, maybe a Devil Sight would be okay. That's probably the two options good. If you can't pick up Devil Sight or Armor of Shadows, just keep Agonizing Blast. There's going to be times where you can't get into melee range, and so keeping Agonizing Blast is going to be worth it. So I'm just going to keep it, and we'll move on. All right, so now we get our level 2 spells. I feel like mobility is important for a melee, so Misty Step as a bonus action is going to help us get to that guy to kill him. And also, I think Hold Person is really, really strong to do that crit damage. If you get someone held, every attack you make is going to crit. Super important to take out that big baddie or that, very high hit point or high armor guy. Probably important to do that. Darkness is okay, but I don't think the whole dark vision works like Devil Sight with darkness, and it also messes up the rest of your party. Scorching Ray is great if you want to do some AoE or range damage that you don't have normally from the Fiend subclass, and Blindness helps for things attacking you, but I'm going to go Misty Step. All right, now we're getting to level 4. So level 4 is very important because depending on your ability scores, you can either take ASIs or you can pick up feats. If you did roll really well and you don't need ASIs, then bonus feats, there's a couple I would pick at this level. The first one, and my favorite, is Follow-Up Strike. This allows you to use your bonus action to make another attack, and it's 1d4 plus your strength bonus. So at this point, it'd be 1d4 plus 5 as a bonus attack. So I'm already getting a melee, and now I'm getting a bonus attack. This is really good in my opinion. If you're worried about your concentration, you can always take Flawless Concentration so that you can maintain your concentration spells. I think if your constitution is high enough, you don't need to waste on this. And then if you want to be more tanky, you could probably go with this Forestalling Strength, get a +1 AC, or Armor Master, get a +1 AC. I'm going to take Follow-Up Strike. The other option is you could do Mighty Blow, which already puts your strength damage, so in this case, +3 on all my attacks. But I feel like getting a whole extra attack is more important, and that's why I'm going with Follow-Up Strike. Now here you can choose to unlearn again, but we're not going to do that. We're going to ignore it, and we're going to move forward. All right, so now we need to do something next here. We are going to go for Poison Spray, and then we are going to unlearn a spell. So here's where you can choose to unlearn a level 1 and pick up a second level 2. And that way you can have 3 level 2s. I don't really want to. It's up to you, though. So I'm going to pick up Hold Person. But I could unlearn Burning Hands and pick up 3 level 2 spells if I want. Doesn't matter. All right, so now we're going to get to what makes us super, super strong as a melee warlock is this ability to get a second attack. So we're going to move forward. And here we can, again, choose another ability. Or we don't, it's up to you. But here's where we're going to pick up Thirsting Blade. So at level 5, as a Pact of the Blade, I can take 2 attacks instead of 1 with my attack action. So now I'm going to attack twice with my two-hander and then have a bonus action attack on top of that. So if you have Malediction, you get 2 attacks. You get to roll d6 on both of those attacks if they hit for damage. And then you get to attack a third time with a bonus action on your second round and get that d6. So the amount of damage that you're pumping out at this point is pretty darn strong. This is where you've met your peak as a melee warlock. Spells, we get to level 3 here. So there's a lot of choices, but because you only have 2 spell slots, I would recommend if you're going Fiend Warlock to pick Fireball. It's always nice to soften them up before they get to you. Or you can do Vampiric Touch, which is really fun, but this is also a concentration. This one does heal you and do some significant damage. So it's really up to you, but this is a melee attack, so just keep that in mind. If you use this, you can't do your 2 attacks. I'm going to pick Fireball. All right, we're going to get to level 6. So level 6 is kind of okay for the Fiend Warlock. This is where you get those saving throws. So for 1 minute, you get to roll a 1d10 on all of your saving throws. This will just help you be a little bit more durable for casters. And when you're getting to level 6, casters are going to be casting Fireball and Lightning Bolt and all that crazy stuff. All right, and then we can choose to unlearn another invocation, but really nothing that I'm interested in, so we're going to move forward. And here we can unlearn a spell like we talked about, and then we can pick up a second spell. So I'll just pick up Vampiric Touch just for fun. All these are up to you. All right, we're going to get to level 7. Once we get to level 7 here, we're going to get another Eldritch Invocation, so you can choose whichever you want. Pick whatever tickles your fancy, but like I said, just make sure it doesn't say uses a spell slot because you only get 2. So you want to make sure you keep as many spell slots as you can. But if you are going to do one, I don't know. I'm going to pick Devil's Sight and move forward. Now we get to our 4th level spell. As a Fiend Warlock, you get Wall of Fire, which I think is amazing. It's worth concentrating on until they can get through the Wall of Fire, and then you can switch to your Malediction. Dreadful Omen's really great. It's an AoE damaging effect that's really strong, so you can do this as well. So I'm going to pick Dreadful Omen, but Wall of Fire is also very, very strong at this level as a Fiend. You only get it if you pick the Fiend subclass. All right, level 8, so we're back to ASIs or bonus feats. Do ASIs, or if you're strong already, then do bonus feats. And the one I would pick up here is this Mighty Blow. So now we're getting our 3 attacks, we're getting our Malediction, and we're going to start getting extra strength damage on all of our attacks. We are just going to be a wrecking ball of damage. And then we can choose to undo some of these or get new ones, which I don't want to. And then spells, pick up another spell. So just remember, you can always unlearn a spell. I don't really want to. I'm going to pick up Wall of Fire, and we're going to move on. All right, level 9. So we're getting to the end of the game here. Really, you just get another Eldritch Invocation. Pick up what makes sense. I like this Leap spell. You get the jump spell for free. Why not? But just see if there's something else here that you like better. And then we're going to move forward. And we get our first 5th level spell. Hold Monster and Mind Twist. Mind Twist is a stronger version of Dreadful Omen, in my opinion. I think it's worth it. You're going to have a lot of stuff in melee range. This is going to hurt them and incapacitate them. And it's an int saving throw versus wisdom. But it's either going to be between Mind Twist and Hold Person. I recommend Mind Twist. All right, getting to level 10. So this is where you get your final version of your subclass, which is Fiendish Resilience. So on a short rest or a long rest, you can just basically become resistant to a specific type of damage. So figure out what you're going to be fighting and swap out for resistances, fire, necrotic, whatever you want. And we get to do another unlearn and change invocations if we want to. And we get to pick a new cantrip, which doesn't matter. And we get to ignore a spell or unlearn one to learn other spells. So at this point we can say, you know what? Burning Hands is pointless, or Hold Person isn't working out anymore, and we're going to go to Hold Monster instead. So now we're getting to pretty much the end of the game. By level 11, you're either almost done or getting close, and this is where you get your final Warlock ability. And this allows you to, we're going to ignore this. We're going to pick our normal spell. We're not going to unlearn any. And this allows you to get your only 6th level spell. Your choices are Conjure, Fey, Circle of Death, True Seeing, Eye Bite. I personally do not like Circle of Death. It doesn't do enough damage. I feel like 8d6 Necrotic is the same as a Fireball, which is much lower. True Seeing, not great. Conjure Fey is nice to put another creature on the board, which is just helpful. And then Eye Bite is really nice because of the sleep effect. Because sleep reminds you, it's very similar to a Hold Person or whatnot, is that they basically, every melee attack is considered a crit. So Eye Bite is a concentration, so you're giving up your 1d6 for Malediction, but at this point, being able to crit is probably better. So that's where I would say Eye Bite or Conjure Fey would be the 2 that I choose. I'm going to pick Eye Bite, because I think it's cool. All right, class spells, we can, again, unlearn, learn, whatever we want. I don't really care at this point. Why not Flame Strike just for fun? And now we're getting to level 12. So if you do make it to level 12, this is another ASI or bonus feat. So at this point, you can do whatever you want. Heck, you could even add some more damage, like some fire damage or something on, some extra AC. Let's put some acid damage on my attacks. Here we go. Boom. Now I do a little acid damage. You can change your invocation. You can learn another invocation. And then you can move on and do your spells. You can ignore a spell and switch those up. So that pretty much gets us to the end of the Warlock. But really, you start hitting your power spike at about 5th level. And then as you start getting up by 8th level, when you get your next bonus feat, you're pretty much going to be crushing everything.